Hey guys, Matt here with Maple City Firearms. Got an awesome product coming your way from North Coast Tactical. Let's take a look. Alright guys, here it is, the Ally from North Coast Tactical. It is an appendix inside the waistband style holster. It's a fold over design. This particular one is set up for the M&P Shield. And we'll get into that in just a minute. First, I want to talk a little bit about the company. They are a Northern Ohio company, hence the name North Coast Tactical. As you can see by their little logo there, I think it's an awesome logo. It stuck out to me a few months, actually closer to a year by now. I first heard about them, and I think that was when they was really starting to pick up some steam and come on the scene as some pretty well-known Kydex vendors at this point. And they have got a YouTube page. They've got a lot of content on there. I know that the guy who runs the company, he does some concealed carry classes. He does some firearms training. Seems like an all-around good guy, family guy, good two-way guy, and we need more people like that in the industry. So I thought I'd go ahead, and even though they were a little less known than some of the companies that I had gotten holsters from before, I wanted to go ahead and give their product a look, and I'm going to try and do that with more Ohio-based companies because I think it's important to support local businesses. With that said, guys, I will tell you right now, I was not disappointed with this product. We'll get a closer look at this in just a minute. Let me go ahead and take the gun out so you can get a better look of it. Now, when I say a fold-over design, if you don't know anything about Kydex holsters, basically what I'm saying is this holster right here is made with one piece of Kydex, okay, and then it's folded over, right? This is a simple, cost-effective way of making holsters. It's also a way of making the holsters so that it's a very small profile. When they have like the pancake style holsters and you see that they have to go ahead and stack the two pieces of Kydex on top of each other, a lot of the times those are larger because they have to attach them all around the perimeter of it, okay? I'll tell you a few things right off the bat that you're gonna like about this thing, and then I'll get into the weeds with it here in just a minute. Some of the things you'll definitely like is that it is very cost effective, okay? Their holsters, they haven't gotten popular enough where basically they're charging an arm and a leg for their holster. The other good news in that they aren't, selling like some of the bigger companies is that they also have a pretty short lead time. So that's a big deal. I just got some holsters in the mail just the other day that I'll be doing reviews on here soon. And I won't say the names, but basically I had forgotten that I ordered them because it took so freaking long for them to get here. This took a couple weeks, guys, and this was even around, I think I received it right around Thanksgiving. And yeah, that's got to be a pretty busy time for them. So I was impressed that they got it to me so quickly. Another thing you'll like about it is that it does have a lot of attachment options here for different types of belt loops. And we'll talk about all that stuff in a minute. It does have different carry position options, kind of, but it is primarily an appendix style holster. And yeah, they've got a lot of color options as well. We will talk about that. There is some good, there is some bad in that, but we will get back to all of that in just a minute. So here's another good look at that, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this on the table, guys.
All right, guys, let's take a look at this Ally right here on the table. Now, first and foremost, I want to address the one issue I had with this thing right off the bat, and it's a small one. It's a cosmetic thing. I ordered this in multicam black with the orange washers, and as you may or may not be able to see, this is kind of light, I thought. Now, to be fair, North Coast Tactical does not make the Kydex. They don't print on the Kydex. They just make the actual holsters with the Kydex. They order from another company, which I think pretty much all holster manufacturers do. But I did want to address that. It's not a big deal, and honestly, it's not even as bad as it's showing up here on camera because the camera is making it look a little light because of the light I have on here. But yeah, I just wanted to address that real quick, guys. If that's an issue for you, you might want to be aware of it. It still looks cool. I think it's a great looking holster, and I don't have an issue with it. And I know it's going inside my waistline. No one's ever going to see it unless I post pictures to the gram, but it is what it is, So that's my one little nitpick thing. Moving on to more important stuff, let's look at the finish here. I'm looking at all the edges here, okay, where everything was cut, where everything was, sanded down, smoothed out. I don't really get too worked up about this, but I will say they did a great job. Two things I look for really. I'm looking to see whether they cut the Kydex in appropriate places. Okay, didn't cut too much off, but also didn't leave a bunch of excess Kydex on there. So one thing you'll see a lot of times when guys are getting started is they leave a lot more Kydex on there than they should because they're real scared, I guess, of taking too much off. They don't want to waste it or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, with a holster like this, you definitely don't want a bunch of excess, Kydex hanging off the edge. And I think they did a great job with that. Everything's smooth. Nothing's going to catch onto your clothing. Nothing's going to rub up against your body and make you feel uncomfortable. So all that stuff is squared away. They did a great job. Let's talk about the stuff I think is really interesting. Let's go ahead and put the gun in here. First and foremost, I do want to address something. If you go onto their website and you order the Ally, you will be given a bunch of different options for belt clips and add-ons and all that good stuff, including color, different prints, and obviously different gun options. Don't worry about it. If you're really confused by it, you could just go with the basic options that are already preset, or of course you could just go ahead and ask North Coast Tactical for their opinions and ask for a little more explanation in the different options they have. They do offer a lot more options than most of the companies out there. I think it's a good thing, but I get that it can be a little bit overwhelming for someone who's new to holsters. So I went with the pretty basic belt clip right here. It's a 1.5-inch belt clip. It is not tuckable, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And I also went with this add-on, which is this wing right here, which, if you don't know whether you want that, which we'll talk about what that does here real quick. What this does is this will line up with the belt, okay? So this is actually going to be on the inside of the waistband. But when this is in there, this will actually press up against the inside of the pants where the belt is, pressing back on the gun so that this part of the gun is actually sort of pressing into your body, which you might think, isn't that going to be uncomfortable? And honestly, yeah, it is a little bit until you get used to it, and it will make it a little more difficult for you to get to the gun because you have to get in between your gun and your body, but it is definitely going to help with printing, okay? So I would suggest going ahead, especially if you're going to appendix carry, get this as an option. It's an add-on. I think it's $5. I'm not positive. Get that as an option. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work for you. Go ahead, get a screwdriver. I'm sure you have one of those. And take this hardware out, take that out, and just put the hardware right back in, okay? I don't think, based on looking at this, you might have to get different hardware. I don't know. It kind of depends on how much you have this cinched down, because this is also the retention. Or you can, of course, go to the hardware store and just get some different hardware for it. But you could still go ahead and use this holster without that. It's not permanently affixed to it. So I say go ahead and get it, see if you like it. It's a bit of a trade-off when you're trying to decide whether you want to conceal very well, you want to be more comfortable, you want to be able to get to the gun. There's going to have to be some compromising going on. So that's one of them. I personally like them on some of my guns, not so much on others. Just kind of depends, personal preference. So let's talk about the other stuff about this, and we're going to kind of get into some more complicated stuff here. I just kind of brushed over it. This is where the retention is. So in other words, there's rubber. I don't know if you could see that. There's rubber washers in there, rubber spacers, whatever. And what you go ahead and do is you tighten this down, these two screws, or loosen them up for your retention. So if you want tighter retention, tighten them up, obviously. I tightened them up a little bit, came in a little bit loose, which obviously not a big deal. And I really do like having holsters that have optional retention because I usually like to have my guns pretty tight in there. So going back to the belt clip. So this is where they really shine, and they did a lot of things that a lot of companies don't do because either they don't want to take the time to do it, they don't think to do it, they don't think it looks good, or whatever. They not only give you all those different belt loop options, but they're also going to go ahead and give you those options even if you don't get those specific belt loops. And what I mean by that is that first off, you have 3 holes here. You only see the 2 because these are screwed into 2, and then there's that one right there. Let me take the gun out here. There's that third right there, okay? And I don't know if you could see it inside there, probably not. And what that is going to do is that's going to give you the option to go ahead and unscrew this one on the right, just move it just a little bit, screw it into the top one, and then you can have that at I can't, okay? Now, I did mention this is primarily an appendix carry holster. You could, of course, carry this in a different part of your body, and if you wanted to carry it, say, at your 3 or 4 o'clock, that might be a position you might want to carry it in. The other thing they did that was great is that they went ahead and they drilled these 3 holes right there for you, and of course they're recessed in there, and that's not a given. Obviously companies should recess those in there. What that does is so that your hardware that's in there isn't going to scratch up against the gun. I have gotten holsters that didn't do that, and it was, well, scratching up the gun. But yeah, so they went ahead and they gave you those holes anyway. These are going to be the holes for different styles of belt clips. So these are not options they necessarily have on their site, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you. These are just a couple I have. So this is a soft loop, and this can actually be used separate from this strut right here. So just pay attention to the leather, the soft loop right here. And these are great because they actually close up. And so these are going to be a little bit more secure, especially if you have a crappy belt and it's not a good thick gun belt. They're going to be a little bit more secure than these clips that you see here, okay? Because they're actually going to attach at the top and they're not going to allow the holster to come out with the gun when it comes out. I've never had that issue, but of course I also use good gun belts. So you could actually go ahead and take that off of the strut and you could put those right there, okay? I think that's even an option on their site actually. So you could run 2 of those right on there. You could also run it in conjunction with a strut. You could put that right there, and there's 3 holes, so you have a couple different options for height. You could put one right there and take this thing off, and you could just have the one. You could go ahead and put one here, get another one, put it right here. You could either use it in conjunction with this claw, which would, you'll probably need some bigger hardware. You may not, I'm not sure. You might need some longer hardware though. You go ahead and put that in conjunction with it, or you could take this off and then use it. You could take one of these bad boys or 2 of these, and you could go ahead and put those on there as well. There's lots of different options because they put those 3 holes in there. And I really think that the design of this, while simplistic, when you really get into it, there's a lot going on in this little package. And I was really glad that they went ahead, thought to do all those things. Like I said, a lot of people think it looks dumb, but it gives me a lot of options because honestly, I'm not a big fan of this, but it doesn't matter because I have a ton of different belt clip options that I can use, and I don't have to go out and get a whole new holster. I can just go ahead and play around with this, with the hardware I have, with the different belt loop options I have, and I can see what I like. So I think it was a home run on their part to go ahead and take this really basic design, but to give you all those different options so that you can customize it any way you want. So I'm going to talk about this just a little bit more with you guys, and yeah, get right back at it.
So guys, that's about all I have to say about the Ally from North Coast Tactical. Go ahead, check them out. I will leave links below, guys. Again, really the only bad thing I could say about it is the color, and that's a really small gripe, alright? If you're worried about not liking the printed Kydex, just go with black or one of the standard colors you'll love. I wanted to try something different with this, and maybe I'm just nitpicking a little bit. All in all, I think it's great. I think they really thought these holsters out. It may seem simple on the surface, but once you really start digging into this thing, guys, you see the work that was put into it, and you see the thought that was put into this thing, so that people out there can go ahead and change the configuration any way they want. And I really like it when companies go that extra mile. Quick turnaround time on these guys and very fairly priced as of right now, okay? Go ahead and check out North Coast Tactical. And as always, guys, stay armed, stay safe.